Ancient DNA, the Neanderthal secret of Denisova Cave. There's a monster lurking inside you. Don't bother checking under the bed or behind the closet door. This one is closer. It's written into your very code, coiled within the billions of cells that make you, you. It's a ghost from a 90,000-year-old crime scene, and its phantom DNA is pulling the strings of your life in ways you can't even begin to imagine. What if I told you that some of your deepest fears, your most stubborn illnesses, even your ability to survive a plague, were not entirely your own? They are echoes of a brutal, forgotten world, a world where our ancestors were not alone, and where the lines between species blurred in the darkness of a Siberian cave. We've been taught that Homo sapiens won the evolutionary war, that we are the sole survivors, the pinnacle of creation. That is a lie. The truth is far more intimate. And it begins with a single tiny piece of bone pulled from the cold, unforgiving earth. Our story takes us to the Altai Mountains in Siberia, a place of stark, raw beauty and bone-chilling cold. Here, nestled in the limestone, is a place that has become ground zero for rewriting human history: Denisova Cave. For centuries, it was just a shelter for shepherds, but deep within its chambers, the soil holds a library of horrors. It's not filled with books, but with the dust and fragments of beings who walked the earth long before us. Imagine the scene: archaeologists in the dim light, carefully brushing away the dirt of millennia. They are used to finding the bones of cave bears and woolly mammoths. But in 2008, they found something that would shatter our understanding of the past. A tiny fragment of a pinky finger bone. It looked almost human, but it wasn't. The DNA extracted from that fragment revealed a completely new branch of the human family tree, a ghost lineage we now call the Denisovans. For years, the Denisovans were phantoms. We had their DNA, but we didn't know what they looked like, how they lived, or how they died. They were a whisper in the genetic code of some modern humans in Asia and Oceania, a silent testament to a forgotten encounter. But Denisova Cave was not done giving up its secrets. It was hoarding a darker, more twisted story. Because the Denisovans were not the only others who sought shelter in its shadows. Their cousins, the Neanderthals, were there too. And they weren't just neighbors. Let's fast forward to 2012. In a pile of over 2,000 unidentified bone fragments from the cave, a single piece stands out. It's labeled Denisova 11, but let's call her what the scientists affectionately did: Denny. Denny was just a shard of a long bone, barely an inch in length. At first glance, it was nothing, worthless. But when the geneticists at the Max Planck Institute got their hands on it, the silence of 90,000 years was broken by a scream. The DNA test came back and it was impossible. The lab technicians must have thought they'd made a mistake. They ran the tests again and again. The result was the same. The genome sequenced from that tiny bone shard belonged to a teenage girl, no older than 13. And she was a direct first-generation hybrid. Her mother was pure Neanderthal. Her father was pure Denisovan. This wasn't a theory. It wasn't a statistical probability. It was a genetic photograph of a single act of what? Love? Violence? Survival? A Neanderthal woman and a Denisovan man, two different species of human, had a child. Right here, in this cave. Denny was the living, breathing proof that our ancient cousins were not just coexisting, they were interbreeding. But how close were they? Think of a lion and a tiger producing a liger. That's the level of genetic separation we're talking about.
Yet it happened. And Deni wasn't a one-off miracle. Further analysis of her father's DNA revealed that he also had Neanderthal ancestors, perhaps hundreds of generations back. This wasn't a freak event, this was a pattern. The cave was not a sanctuary, it was a melting pot, a genetic crossroads where the boundaries of human were constantly being redrawn. And the echoes of these encounters are inside us. If you have any non-African ancestry, you carry between 1% and 4% Neanderthal DNA. If you are of Melanesian or Tibetan descent, you could carry up to 6% Denisovan DNA. These aren't just dormant, useless strands of code. They are active. A gene from Denisovans, EPAS, allows Tibetans to thrive at high altitudes where the air is thin. A cluster of Neanderthal genes affects our immune system, making us more resilient to certain local pathogens they had adapted to, but also more susceptible to allergies and autoimmune diseases. It's a devil's bargain, written in ancient blood. So, we have the evidence. Our ancestors were not alone, and they were not picky. But the sanitized academic version of this story speaks of gene flow and admixture events. Let's peel back that comfortable language and stare into the abyss. What really happened in the twilight world of the Pleistocene? Was this a story of star-crossed lovers from different tribes? Or was it something far more brutal? Consider the world 90,000 years ago. It was a landscape of terror. Mega predators stalked the plains, resources were scarce, and survival was a daily bloody battle. Different hominin groups would have competed fiercely for territory, for food. In such a world, what are the odds that encounters between these groups were peaceful? Here's one horrifying possibility. What if these interbreeding events were not consensual? What if they were the spoils of war? The result of one tribe conquering another, taking their females as prizes? The story of Deni, the 13-year-old girl, suddenly takes on a much darker tone. Was she the product of an alliance or an atrocity? The bone can't tell us if her mother screamed.
And what did these other humans even look like? We imagine Neanderthals as brutish, hunched-over cavemen, a caricature born of early, flawed fossil reconstructions. But they were incredibly strong, intelligent, and adapted to the cold. They had culture, tools, and likely language. The Denisovans are even more of a mystery. All we have are a pinky bone, a few teeth, and a piece of a skull. But their DNA suggests they were robust, perhaps even larger than Neanderthals. Were we, the scrawnier Homo sapiens, the heroes of this story? Or were we the vermin, surviving by wits and numbers, while these giants fought for a dying world? Think about this. Why did they disappear? Why are we the only ones left? The common theory is that we outcompeted them, that our superior intellect and social structures gave us the edge. But what if it was more direct? What if we didn't just outcompete them? What if we exterminated them? And in the process, we absorbed the most useful parts of their genetic code. It's the ultimate act of evolutionary vampirism. Kill your enemy and steal their power. The monster isn't just inside you. Maybe the monster is you. Let's create a narrative for a moment. Let's step into Deni's world. Picture a girl, 13 years old. She doesn't fit in. Her mother's people, the Neanderthals, are stocky, with pronounced brows and a strength built for the cold. Her father's people, the Denisovans, are taller, with massive jaws and teeth unlike any other. And Deni? She is a mix of both, a living chimera. Perhaps she was a bridge between two clans, a symbol of a fragile peace. Or perhaps she was an outcast, a constant, living reminder of a taboo or a transgression. Did she know her father? Was he a wandering stranger who visited her mother's clan? Or was he an enemy soldier? Her bones tell us she lived and died in that cave. Her existence, however brief, was real. She felt the cold, she felt hunger, she looked up at the same stars we do. But her legacy is the most chilling part of the story, because her existence proves that for thousands of years there were multiple kinds of people on this planet. It wasn't a clean, linear progression from ape to us. It was a messy, chaotic, and often violent family reunion. And we are the last ones standing at the end of the party, with the blood of our relatives on our hands. The genetic gifts they left us are a constant reminder of this. Take the gene variants that affect our skin and hair, inherited from Neanderthals. They may have helped our ancestors adapt to lower UV levels as they moved out of Africa. Simple, right? But other Neanderthal genes are linked to depression, nicotine addiction, and blood clotting disorders. It's a package deal. You get the advantage, but you also inherit the curse. A 90,000-year-old ghost is deciding whether you'll get a sunburn and also whispering temptations into your ear. What if this isn't just history? What if the story isn't over? We think of evolution as something that happened in the distant past. But the discovery of Denisovan and Neanderthal DNA inside us proves that our genome is a living artifact, constantly being shaped and reshaped. And here's where it gets truly terrifying. We are now on the cusp of a genetic revolution. Technologies like CRISPR allow us to edit DNA with pinpoint accuracy. We can eliminate diseases, enhance our abilities. We can play God. But what if, in our arrogance, we accidentally switch on one of these ancient, dormant genes? What if, in trying to cure one disease, we awaken a prehistoric predisposition for something far worse? Imagine a future where, through some unforeseen genetic interaction, the traits of these ancient hominins begin to re-emerge. Not just a better immune system or high-altitude tolerance, but the raw, brutal strength of a Neanderthal or the enigmatic resilience of a Denisovan. We could inadvertently resurrect the ghosts we thought we had vanquished. We could splinter our own species back into subspecies, creating a new hierarchy based not on race or creed, but on whose ancient DNA is expressing itself most forcefully. The monster inside you wouldn't be a metaphor anymore. It would be a biological reality. The world would become a far more dangerous place, not because of a new virus or an asteroid, but because we finally unlocked the cage we built around our own genetic code. We would be haunted not by the ghosts of the past, but by the living, breathing reality of what they were and what we could once again become. The story of Deni, the hybrid girl from the Siberian cave, is not just a scientific curiosity. It's a mirror. It shows us that our pristine identity as Homo sapiens is a comforting fiction. We are not a pure-blooded race. We are a mosaic, a hybrid, a product of encounters both beautiful and brutal. We carry the legacies of species that are now extinct, their triumphs and their traumas encoded in ourselves. We are living fossils. So, the next time you look in the mirror, look a little deeper, past the surface, past your own reflection. Who
Or what is looking back? And what will it do when it finally wakes up?